Charger fans, how we feeling tonight? I'm feeling ecstatic for the reason that our boys back on the win column, and we are getting ready to get geared up for Week 7 Monday Night Football prime time game against the Arizona Cardinals. Welcome on to Charger Syndicate. Here live up on YouTube. If it is your first time ever here on the channel, I encourage you guys to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on future and past live streams and videos and so much more. Brian, bolt up, bro. Appreciate you coming on by. Also, share this out with all Charger fans that you know as well. Get them up and in the chats. I want to see more bolts up here up on this chat line because if it's a good day. It's a Friday, man. Hell yeah. It's a good time to be a Charger fan right now. The fact that we're back up on the win column at 3-2 after a bye, beating the Donkeys here on the road, and even where I live at here up in Denver, yep, I got to deal with donkey country out here. But either way, it was a good enough win. Didn't like the end result in the fourth quarter, but a win's a win. I'll take it. So lots to really talk about. Rumors, of course, too, with as far as the trade deadline getting closer and closer for your Bolts. It's going to be really interesting come down the next couple of weeks of the stretch because November 5th, November 6th is when the trade deadline is. So that's what's going to be interesting here because honestly, the Chargers do have some needs to fit. And with right now, with where they're sitting at up and under the cap, this is what's going to be interesting right now for what could look like ahead. So right now, the team's cap space is at least at $8 million. It's one thing that I'm curious of, what deals that they may end up potentially making. So, because I'm holding my breath up on this one. I think ultimately the Chargers do make some serious moves that can honestly help this team really get them over this hump. I was happy of the fact that the team made some very good deals up to this point. So right now, the Chargers, as they stand, as we talk a little bit about this before previewing the game, the Chargers right now sit at $8.2 million left in the cap. That's where they're at. So I think ultimately with where this stands, this team is going to end up making some moves. I really hope. And there's a couple positions that we've already narrowed down that I know that we may need help at. Wide receiver is obviously one of them. Tight end could definitely be a position, a position of help. And then even so, corner has been thrown up out there. I think the edge rushing position, though, is also another one that's been questionable, but we'll get a little bit more up into that as we kind of get closer. But the Chargers, as you guys see, I don't know how you guys end up feeling, but this Chargers team, the defense right now, number one scoring defense in the league. They have not allowed more than 13 points per opponent. They've limited a lot of their opponents. Even though the two games that did not go favored their way between the Steelers and the Chiefs, this defense is for real. Jesse Minter has put together an amazing group, and not to mention, too, shout out to Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart really coming up the way that they did. Because those were two important corners that I was very happy of their performances that past week. I mean, that was a hell of a performance. And I think they are going to get better the more and more they get more playing time. And the defense last week had 49 total tackles, 32 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 6 passes defended. So Elijah Molden gets a pass defended. Tarheeb Still gets a pass defended. Now, we know with the one play that did not end up going their way, and that usually does happen in some areas, and especially with the way that the play went down. But the one that The one that Cortland Sutton scored. Okay, that was whatever. It happened. But either way, I'm proud of these guys because they both come out. They both played very good quality defenses that we need them to. Cam Hart coming away with 2 big-time solo tackles. And these guys, this is the reason why that they ended up double dipping on corners. There's a reason why that they looked at both these guys. And I love Cam Hart because Cam Hart showed a lot of leadership in Notre Dame. And Tariq Still, for those that may have looked at his highlights in Maryland, he's a very good, on target type corner. He doesn't get away from his man. He's a very good man-to-man coverage corner. A guy that loves to play one-on-one matchups. So to having him more involved and getting up into the mix, along with Cam Hart, is one that I think the Chargers are really going to start to consider. Asante Samuel, as I've said, placed on the IR, is only going to be out for at least 3 more weeks after he was put on last week. It was a hard loss for the Chargers, but this is where this is kind of an area of improvement that they needed to make, is a bit of corner. Now, we know right now we're dealing with the guys that we know that we have. With Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, Cam Hart, Tariq Still. We were dealing with all these guys. And these guys are continuing to play hard football under Jesse Minter, which is what is incredible. You could see the vibe with both these teams. You could see the vibe with this defense. This defense clearly is bought in. We know right now, because the hard part is the fact right now with what we've seen in the injury reports, which I'll post them up here in just a bit, but this team continues to fight. They don't fold. They don't just, they just don't leave themselves dead in the water. We know in the fourth quarter, it was one that really did shock me a bit, because the fact that they were held to 0 points in that fourth quarter alone, which really had me concerned. I was not as happy after that result, guys. You saw that in the last live stream. I was not happy about it, because the fact of we go on a roll for 3 straight quarters, and then all of a sudden we don't come up with any more points in the fourth quarter, and Denver starts coming back in this game. That's unacceptable. We cannot allow ourselves to let that happen again. I understand time of possession control. I understand all of that. But you saw that closely with how momentum was gaining for Denver. If Denver was to come back to that game, that would have been one of the first worst losses for Jesse Minter and for this team. That's something that cannot happen again. It cannot happen again. So I think the defense learned from that mistake this past week, and they're getting a bit more of a break because the fact that this game's on Monday Night Football. But they are going to go in to a bit of a short week come that week after going into week 8. So that's what's going to be important. We played soft coverage fourth quarter. That's what, yeah, they did. They played soft coverage, which is one thing that, look, that game ain't over until it's over. You still have to manage to dominate those times of possessions. You still have to be able to dominate the defensive game, because you can't let a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix literally come back from that. That game should have been a 23-7 game, not a 23-16. There's a difference on it. So we cannot take our foot off the gas pedal. We just cannot afford to let ourselves do that. And so the Chargers now move on, go into week 7, and face off in a primetime Monday Night Football game against the Arizona Cardinals on the road. So back-to-back road games, not as far, going into Denver and going into Arizona. The Cardinals have not been looking like a great team themselves. They've been dealing with some serious inconsistencies. Defense does not look that intimidating. I mean, they've been giving away. I mean, they've been giving away big time, massive points, like all over the defense. So this Cardinals team right now, you could clearly see they need help. They need a ton of help. So looking at it though, too, with the defenses, if I can bring this up. Because you could already tell this is a big time mismatch. The fact that the Chargers have the number one scoring defense against a team that literally has been unloaded on several times now this season. Like the Cardinals, it doesn't look to me like this is going to be a matchup that is going to be in favored for the Cardinals at all. Cardinals defense not playing great. Offensive line looks a bit shaky. And the other thing is, too, to really consider. Right now, from what I'm still told, is that Marvin Harrison Jr., he's a possibility to come back. As of right now, like he's questionable. So there's a good probable chance he may end up coming back from there. But again, we'll see. If he does end up coming back, that is going to be a challenge, and that's where I'm going to really be scoping a little bit more on who would we want to cover Marvin Harrison Jr. Because the kid's incredible. The kid's got very good separation. He's got great hands. That's one that I'm a bit curious about. But as of right now, he's still listed as questionable. I haven't heard as far as any progressions with him getting back up onto the field. So, but if they do get him back, my hope is that we match up the right guy against him. Because that one is going to be a very challenging matchup nonetheless. So looking at our injury report here from the for the Chargers going into week 7. So Joey Bosa did not practice in both days with that hip injury. DJ Chark, who's slowly making his way back, was limited in practice from the groin injury that he suffered. Will Dissly was limited and full in practice today. Simi Fehoko, shoulder and groin, limited and full today. But Christian Fulton had a hamstring and did not practice either yesterday and today. Same with Hayden Hurst. From what I'm told, Hayden Hurst may be out upon this game. Zion Johnson, however, limited but had a full practice today, so that was a good sign, knowing our interior guard is still good to go. Quentin Johnston did not practice in both days. He's questionable. Not sure if he may end up being out, but that's a questionable decision. Dean Leonard did not practice both days of the hamstring. Ladd McConkey with a hip injury, limited in both these practices. He'll be on a questionable side as well. And then Trey Pipkins, limited both days. And same with Jasir Taylor. They were limited as well. So this is going to be interesting, though. Yeah, Cam Hart has covered him very well. So, I think Cam Hart may be my choice when it comes to it when we look at the rest of that. Because ultimately, I think we would still use Christian Fulton the way that we've been using him. But I think if you wanted to make this kind of really good matchup, I would say you match up Cam Hart with him. Because in the last few times in Ohio State and Notre Dame, he covered him very well. So Cam Hart's got a lot of familiarity between the two of them. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would definitely end up taking Cam Hart to cover him. He has a better covering percentage, and Marvin Harrison hadn't really done much when Cam Hart's right there in front of him. So that's what I would go with too, Brian. All right. So, yeah. So rumors around in the NFL is that there are a couple things that have been emerging, at least for the Chargers. So wide receiver right now seems to be our target that we need help at. And if you think about it, because right now we are trying to build Ladd McConkey the best way that we can. And Ladd has been fed the ball. Ladd's been fed the ball the last few times, and especially even with the hip, like he looked very good. And so when you look at the receiving core right now, This receiving core had 21 catches for 237 yards and 1 touchdown score. That was accounting for Kamani Vidal as one of our pass-catching running backs. But Ladd McConkey with 4 catches, 43 yards. What I'm definitely wanting to look at is I'm looking at the team's receiving stats, because I think that's going to be important. So looking at the receiving end, here's what you're noticing. So our receivers right now, Ladd McConkey has 19 catches, and these are in all the 5 games that have been played. Ladd with 19, Quentin Johnston with 14, Will Dissly with 13, J.K. Dobbins with 12, Josh Palmer with 9, Simi Fehoko with 3, Darius Davis with 1 catch. And this is how many times that they were targeted. Ladd has been targeted more times than all these guys as a rookie, 32 times. QJ with 22. Josh with at least 13. And Simi Fehoko with 7. And Ladd McConkey, 219 receiving yards. And the funny thing is that like Simi Fehoko, even with the 3 catches that he had, he's averaged 20.3 yards a play. And the touchdown so far, Quinn Johnson has 3, and Ladd McConkey has 2. We have 6 receiving touchdowns. Big time low. Not to what we're usually used to. What's going on, School to Pro? Bolt up. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I know for a fact that like wide receiving has been one of our biggest key holes right now. The fact that we're leaning a lot into our rookie wide receiver, we're leaning into our second-year receiver, Quentin Johnston, and not a lot of our pieces like Josh Palmer or even Simi Fehoko, even Brendan Rice and a couple others have gotten involved. And I know a lot of that has to come from how our offense is set. Because our offense has been heavy more on the run than anything else. This is what's funny about this, though, too, is that our rushing yards altogether, 639 rushing yards, and then we have 839 passing yards. But we're playing more of the check down type. That's what we're doing. Our team already in 5 weeks with 18.2 points per game. Okay, in the 5 games they played. So our passing, we only have 6 passing touchdowns. And that's what Justin Herbert has. So, but opposing, we've been able to get 5 interceptions. So there is much needed improvement with our pass game. And it's much needed improvement because we also do need a veteran wide receiver that's experienced with it. And he did. He did look a little bit more mobile last game. And the other thing is, too, Brian, to take away from that, they finally started throwing the ball. Finally. Because it was one thing that was driving me nuts about Greg Roman is the fact that we were not opening up the pass game as much as we should have. That's the part I couldn't understand. So last week against Denver, Justin Herbert had 237 passing yards, the most he's had this season. So we've got to open this pass game up more. And I'm not saying that this has to be a go-to every single time, but we need to open it up more in order for that to happen. As far as right now, he's been practicing and he's been looking healthy. So I think he may end up being a go on Monday for DJ Chark. I think he may be ready to roll. Because right now he's been limited in practice twice. So they've been kind of taking it at least easy up on him. But I think he'll be ready in a full go for Monday, which is going to be huge because that's exactly what we needed is we need more of our weapons to get healthy. But yeah, think about it. Justin Herbert's been throwing the ball 34 times last week. So it was what I was hoping and was expecting is for him to throw about 35 times. He said he was trying to get into game shape. Yeah, that's the goal. That's what he's been trying to do, is get himself up into game shape. I think first downs are more important than touchdowns because our defense is so good. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I mean, in a sense, you want to be able to have a balance of getting first downs and getting scores. Because the reason of it is because, yes, time of possession is everything. It's so important to us. And when we outmatch the time of possession game against all these other teams, that's where we really succeed the most. And like when we score, of course, we're going to spread the ball open and all the rest of it in order to get points on the board and then hold them for the most part. And yes, even when we have the time of possession and getting the first downs, they are important. But at the same time, you still want to be able to get a padded lead. You don't want to end up going into what happened last week was we were driving these guys for 3 quarters. And then we don't do squat in the fourth quarter. And they scored their only points, 16, in the late quarter. That's the part that I get concerned about. Because if we play soft defense like that in the most crucial quarter in every football game, that's the part where I'm like, that's where we lose. We have to be able to keep our foot on the gas pedal. Because this can happen in any game. Think about it. I mean, that was important knowing the fact that was our division rival with the Denver Broncos. Because that would have not felt good come the week. That would have not felt good. I know, it gave me flashbacks too. And that was the part where we're trying to change the narrative. We're not trying to charge her here. That shit is over. We're not trying to do that. So if we basically take a step back, refocus, get ourselves back into form again, I think we'll be fine. But we can't allow that kind of stuff to happen again, especially if we are really trying to push for something. I'm not going to end up pointing out playoffs, but if we're trying to strive to really overachieve our goals, that's what we need to do. So the rumor buzzes, of course, wide receiver has been a talk. We've also had our good guys at Bolt Bros Charger podcast as well. Love these guys, but they were looking at some wild targets. I'll get into that as well. But the rumor that has been around, so since Davante Adams has been traded away from the Raiders to the Jets, right now, Mike Williams has not quite looked the same in a Jet uniform. He has not looked the same. And Aaron Rodgers actually called him out instead of taking ownership for his own decisions. So Mike Williams kind of feels a little bit discouraged there. And so when you bring in Davante Adams and you've got Malachi Corley, Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, that just seems to me like there's going to be a little bit more of a play stretch that's thin. Now, I know Mike Williams is 30 years old, but thus far with the Jets, he has 10 catches, 145 receiving yards, and no touchdowns. So it leaves the question, because right now I looked at Mike Williams' contract, and his is only 1 year, $10 million. And that's also including a $3.3 million signing bonus, with 8.3 of that money guaranteed. So you got to ask yourself, if you are the Chargers, if you look at this, because I know Mike Williams is very familiarized with this team, and he's very familiarized with this roster. But 30 years old, has dealt with a bunch of injuries, do you really risk going and getting that? Do you really risk going and getting somebody that we know is familiar with the quarterback play, was familiarized with the kind of offense that they ran? Do we honestly make that? Because yeah, I'm 50-50 on that. Mike Williams looks slower. Yeah, he does. He does kind of look slower. He does. I'm 50-50 on Mike Dub, not because of his play on the Jets, but because Herbert needs chemistry with his young wide receivers. I agree with that too. He does need to build the chemistry with these young receivers. It's nice to at least, because I think about this though too, because I just watched the Buffalo Bills acquire Amari Cooper. And the only reason of that is because it is so important to have a veteran receiver in the room, because it's only what's going to make the build better. So you think about it, Amari Cooper, and the way that the Bills ended up getting him for a third-round pick and another pick, and they get him for sixth. That's a pretty good bargain deal. But the other part of it is too, Amari Cooper's put in here for a few reasons. Number one, he's getting out of the toxic mess that's in Cleveland. Okay, you traded Deshaun Watson for Josh Allen. So you're getting the better quarterback of the two. The other thing is, you are a veteran wide receiver that guys like Keon Coleman are going to want to imitate play. They're going to want to learn from this. And so Amari Cooper, with the amount of experience that he has, could help build Keon Coleman along the way. So I start thinking about that with veteran wide receivers. This could help a little bit more with the development of Quinn Johnson in his second year, and also the development of rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey, who you're already seeing with the way his route running and his separation skills are already coming into fruition, is exactly the perfect replacement for Keenan Allen. You're already seeing that. High stick stepper, bolt up, man. That INT was all on Rodgers. He held it through under Williams when he was wide open. Rodgers threw a duck and it got picked. Rodgers washed his hell. I mean, yeah, that's what I said. I saw that clear as day. I knew for a fact that he did not throw it to Mike Williams as we thought he should have, at least in that way. And I've looked at Aaron Rodgers, because here's the thing. He looks different with that after that Achilles. He doesn't have quite the same drive. He doesn't have the same pivot. That's the part that I'm like looking at this Devontae Adams thing, that I don't think it's going to honestly change a bit of that Jets offense. I really don't. I mean, yeah, they changed the play caller, which looks a lot better than what Nate Hackett's done. But at the same time, I just don't think it's going to change a thing, because it's all Aaron Rodgers' team. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. It may look good on paper, but I don't think it's going to honestly make a difference. Like Devontae Adams is not going to be one sole piece that's honestly going to move the whole offense. Like, come on. So Mike Williams, to me, I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm 50-50 up on it, but I would like to look for other options. You know? So I looked at this from our good guys at Bolt Bros, and they broke it down a couple of these types of trade targets, which would be pretty crazy. So Mike Williams, as we already said, they mentioned continuity for Herbert with his reliable target, chemistry for days, which I can understand that you're getting continuity back with this kind of play if that's what they decide to go with. But here's another thing to look at. Greg Newsome. So what they broke down is targeting him from Cleveland could inject youth and potential growth into the Chargers cornerback room. His contract situation could make him available, and he could shore up the secondary. So looking at Greg Newsome, this is what I'm going to end up looking up. I'm looking up his contract right now, because I like the idea of honestly bringing in a guy like Greg Newsome to solidify our corners and even building this up. This kid's 24 years old. Okay, That's honestly perfect in my opinion if you think about it. So, because come in 2025, his base salary will be at least 13 million. Okay, and that's the guarantee. So, there is a perfect opportunity for the Chargers there to really kind of snag and grab a guy like that because of right now where his value is. Because right now his base salary is 2.3 million at 24 years old. And the statistics on him right now in 6 games he's played, he's already got 80% of his defensive snaps, 16 tackles, and has had 2 passes defended. Right now, he needs to change of scenery. And you know what's funny about this? I kind of revert to this. Remember when Christian Fulton, when we got him from Tennessee with a 1-year deal, you know how much of a turnaround that's looked like for him? I mean, it was incredible. The fact that we literally get this kid and he's already becoming a big turnaround. So I just want to point this out. So 16 tackles, 2 passes defended, no INTs. But I do want to put a side to side of Christian Fulton here for a second. So I'm going to bring this up. Give me 1 second here. Let's bring up our guy. There he is. So Christian Fulton right now, he has 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and 12 tackles. Okay. A stat beforehand that I wanted to bring up was 23. So in 2023, when he had the past year with the Tennessee Titans in 11 games, he had 37 solo tackles and he had no interceptions, but he had 5 passes defended. Greg Newsome right now has 16 solo tackles and 2 passes defended. This guy honestly looks very, very good. And that's what I'm saying. Christian Fulton looks great for us. And then for them to do that again, if we get to that point in the trade deadline where we go and pick up a guy like Greg Newsome, because here's the deal. You're getting him right now at the cheapest cost because he's only at 2.3 in his base salary. Before next year, he's got 13 million. You can finagle that. You can finagle it. And you could get at least a reasonable pick because he was a 2021 26 pick in the first round that year. So you move down and he's 24 years old. You're getting him right now at the point where we haven't even unlocked him to his prime. And that's where Jesse Minter comes in because think about it. Christian Fulton, he's only 26. And we got him at least in a value to where he's still young, he can produce, and change of scenery is always good. I mean, you have to think about it. I see this situation similarly to like what it was when we first signed Christian Fulton. So I think if you have the two of them there, veteran experience, and these are also guys that we can unlock their fullest potential, it gives us more of a complete shutdown. Like they said, this could shore up the secondary a lot because when you've got Asante Samuel right now on IR, this gives us plenty of depth to where now we could start moving these guys around. And it's also good, at least for our buildups of Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart, because we'll utilize them in every single defensive scheme that Jesse Minter has, all in our secondary. It's perfect. I think Greg Newsome would be a very good option there. So I liked, and I start to think about this more. The other thing is it's adding youth and potential to our cornerback room. Contract situation could make him a Charger. So think about that. I could make him big time. That can honestly make him available. Do you think Asante is done as a Charger because of his tackling struggles? Um, the thing I worry about though, and like, because I love Asante, I really do. But my only issue is I just don't know if like from his build at his size, if he's capable of even being that kind of tackler. I like him as more as the defender. I like him more as just that one-on-one defender to go and get passes defended. But when we have guys like Cam Hart that's going to be coming in, Tareeb Still that's also coming in the middle of this mix, and then when you bring in a guy like Greg Newsome in the trade deadline, then I mean he still has to be able to tackle. You still have to be able to bring the guy down. I like him from a coverage standpoint, but if I had to get him like one-on-one to tackle somebody, to like get somebody down, he does struggle at that. So I just, I don't quite know, because the problem is that Joe Ortiz did not, he did not draft Asante. He's only inherited him. So the way that I just see this defense really working out is you want guys that can obviously cover. You want guys that can obviously defend passes, but you also got to want guys that are hungry, that they want to tackle. You got to have physical guys all across this roster. And I never want to throw in the towel at all for Asante, because I do believe that there is upside there. But I am also keeping an eye out for the fact of just the injury history is one of those reasons I'm kind of holding my breath on it. That's the part that I'm a little bit concerned of. So, because Asante right now, he's 25 years old. You got to think about it. And look, 11 tackles, 2 passes defended right now. Like, he's still a kid. He's still young. I don't want to give up on a project that I know that he can be successful. And he's already got 6 interceptions. So that's what I'm saying. I love him as a defender because I know that he can go and defend and all the rest of it. But I know sometimes too, I just know sometimes too, as far as with the tackler, it's hard. Yeah, he's a fan favorite. I like him at corner, but I feel he might be trade bait right now. But I love Zont too as a Chargers fan. Yeah, because the thing of it is like you don't want to give up on a project that, you know, because think about it. If Asante was to walk away, right? If Asante was to walk away after this season, then he goes to another team, and depending on how their defensive skill set is, what happens if he ends up getting into an upside? Like he has a year that he pops off. It's just one of those things I just kind of think about, because I know every defensive scheme is different. Everybody does have like some sort of way that they just unlock potential with them. If we're not going to keep him, sadly, I hope we trade him. Yeah. I mean, that's really all the best that you could do. So if he's involved in a trade package somewhere, then I would hope nothing but the best production for him, because I love the kid and I love the fact that, like, again, he's a great he's a very good up and coming pass defender. But as far as physical and when it comes to tackle, I just feel like there's a part of his size that I think he's kind of limited to. And I think that's kind of the part that is a bit frustrating. It sucks for a lot of us Charger fans to really think about that, but like I said, I want to have guys that I know that can not only just defend, but is also physical enough to bring guys down, because that's who Jim Harbaugh is. He's all about physical, tough nose, in your face type football. You got to have guys like that. So, again, I would love to see him build through this, but if he doesn't make it through it, then, we'd have to cut our losses and we'd have to move on. I never want to think that way, but sometimes you just got to have the right guys that can honestly build around in this core. You really do. So another one they thought of, DeAndre Hopkins, which is very interesting. So acquiring Hopkins could add veteran experience and elevate the Chargers' receiving core. His physicality and route running skills could open up the field for Herbert. So I thought about that too. And it could also elevate our receiving cores, because the problem of it is that there's some of our guys outside of Ladd McConkey that are not getting at least the right amount of separation. So adding a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who we know adds separation, and, I've seen this with DeAndre Hopkins multiple times. We all have. And he still can play at that position. Now, I know that right now, at 32 years old, it may be a little bit risky. He would honestly, because he would be a one-year rental. Right now, he's got 14 catches, 175 yards, and 1 touchdown score. So, not as the same as he once was, but still allows it to where we have a veteran receiver in the building to where it will allow us to really build our receiving core the way that it should be. So, and still, Herbert would still be able to build the chemistry and the connection to all of the young receivers. But even with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who we know has size, we know he's got very good hands, a guy that we know can separate well. Because think about it, like this was initially with when like Josh Palmer got drafted, replacing Mike Williams because of size, because potentially of separation build, and even with the hands. Because you want a guy that could be out there serving as a decoy whenever you get guys like Ladd McConkey, you get a little bit of the workload off because he's a very good route runner. He builds up a lot of separation, and he's going to end up getting into those first downs any way that he can. And then you have that decoy that'll basically be out there and the deep ball throws where Justin Herbert, we know we can unleash him at from there, get those big plays. Because there hasn't been a whole lot of big plays out of this Chargers passing offense. There really hasn't. So even if you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, that's where I really think that may help. It may help a bit. So DeAndre Hopkins right now, because his salary cap charge is at $18 million, and this year he's making about base salary $8.2 million. Maybe hard. That may be really, really hard the way that the Tennessee Titans really kind of put all this together, especially with that kind of contract. So, and he has a 10.9 fully guaranteed money with the contract value of $26 million. So that may be pretty hard to finagle just because of the way that base salary is set together. And at 32 years old, we moved off of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, especially when it came to injury deals. So to have to kind of come back to that is pretty risky. You're hoping that the reward is going to be sweeter than the risk when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins. That's the one thing that you would hope for, because you don't want to go in there, and especially with the base salary that he's at, go and make a trade, and then let's say something was to happen with DeAndre Hopkins, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work out. Now what do you do? That's why you're hoping that the reward will be much sweeter than what the risk kind of shows like. From the contract standpoint, a little bit of injury history from there. So that's where I'm like, I'd like to entertain that thought, but it would be pretty risky to end up getting somebody like him. It really would. I like the thought. I would love to have him up on this roster, but we got to think about our future. Harrison Bryant, the tight end from Cleveland, was another one, and this was actually pretty interesting here. So adding Bryant could bring versatility and veteran presence to the tight end position, giving Herbert another dependable option in the passing game. And you know what? Like Harrison Bryant, oh yeah, I'm for D-Hop, or if Jamar Chase suddenly demands a trade. But outside of those two guys, I think we should wait for Chark to come back for a game or two before we do anything to our receiving group. No, I that's actually perfect right there. That's a perfect mindset, because honestly, I got to see with how DJ Chark plays. And like I said, we've only got till about week 9 with the trade deadline. We've only got about till then before we can even end up making a move. So week 7 and week 8 are perfect times to really kind of see what we really have with DJ Chark. Because let's say he comes back from this injury and he actually looks like the receiver that we knew that we signed. Then there may be no need to do that. But if we start to see something that just the slightest looks a little different, then I think that's where you would honestly end up making that option. Because you never can go wrong with adding another weapon. I mean, that's initially the thought. So I wanted to look up Harrison Bryant. Because this is another tight end option that I think very much could work in the Chargers' favor. So Harrison Bryant is actually with the Las Vegas Raiders right now. 26 years old, 5 catches, 45 yards, no TDs. And especially with the way that things are looking at right now, they have Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. And we ain't asking for much at all. But this is a good thing to look at. But if you look at Harrison Bryant in the last few years, even with Cleveland, I mean, he's been very serviceable, and he's averaging at least close to 8 to 9 yards a play. And he's young. You can build around it a bit. So, and he comes up from a low risk, potential high reward type of value. And so Harrison Bryant, here's what I'll look at from his contract. Because I know they did not end up paying him that much. Oh, yeah, see, so only 3.3. So his base salary is 1.3 million. 26 years old. And right now, because we're dealing with Hayden Hurst, who's hurt, but we don't have a whole lot of, at least from offensive production right now, at the tight end position. We're only getting at least like small checkdowns from here, but it does bring a lot of versatility. And it's a veteran presence in the tight end position. Because I just have a feeling, guys, that come the draft, because I know for a fact, like, there's going to be positions of need. Running back, tight end, D-line. Those are probably 3 positions right there. Because if we get Greg Newsome, we won't even have to worry about corner. We would not. Young kid, we could honestly end up building him up at his potential peak of his prime. So that would literally solve those problems. But that's what I would anticipate. And I'll speak a bit about that a little later on. But Harrison Bryant, as a 26-year-old, gives us versatility, and another guy that we know that could very much help us in situational plays and really kind of open up a little more of our passing game and the check down, especially when we need to get a much-needed first down. He's not going to be a dynamic tight end. but he certainly is going to be one that adds a little bit more versatility in that room. It's not bad. I mean, that's a cheap option from here, but that is interesting. So, let me know your guys' thoughts on this idea. Because I thought this was interesting. I had to think about it here for a couple of reasons. But the one move that I thought was interesting they put up was trading for Myles Garrett. What do you guys honestly think of that? So the explanation is trading for Myles Garrett could significantly boost the Chargers' pass rush. He's a game changer on defense, and the Browns might be willing to trade to save money. The Chargers could absorb his contract and potentially free up cap space for future seasons. I mean, how crazy would that be? The fact that we get Myles Garrett. I mean, the guy is a freakish athlete, still at the age of 28, has 13 tackles, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. I mean, the Browns are at an absolute like fire sale right now. Oso Diaz, bolt up. Nope, our pass rush is already good. We need receivers. I agree. And I have not looked in when it came to our pass rushers this much, but here's what I think they were looking at from here. So here's what I have on Myles Garrett, which is interesting. So Myles Garrett, because it's a whole stretch. You know, his base salary right now is $1.2 million. So the salary cap charge is $20 million, which is about 6.95% of the cap. Okay, and his contract value is $125 million with fully guaranteed money of $50 million. And this is basically stretched. So this year, it's a $20 million cap hit, then $19 million, and then $20 million, and then $37 in 27. But if it was pre-June 1st, there's the dead money and then there's the cap savings. So the dead money would basically be $45 million for the Browns, and the cap savings would be $25 million. They'd be saving $25 million on it. And especially with the way because you have to account for a few things. They are accounting for Deshaun Watson's ridiculous guaranteed contract, which is one thing that they are seriously accounting for. So even if we go and get a guy like Myles Garrett, I mean, do you know how insane that would be if Joe Ortiz pulled this off? Let's get him. Bosa is gone after this year, and him and Thule can go for at least a good 3 to 5 year stretch. So that's the other thing, though, too, is because I believe, this year, that this is Mac's last year here, if I'm not mistaken, from contract, because he's already playing at the level that he's at. So let me look at Khalil Mack real quick. Because I think he may be a free agent after this year. And he's 33 years old. But think about this. He has 8 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Still playing at a high level. And so Khalil Mack right now, he's done himself well enough of a service. The fact that Thule has been built up by Khalil Mack last year with the 10.5 sacks that he did as our second rounder was so incredible. Watson ruined the quarterback bar. Yeah, he did. That's what I'm saying. So the fact that the Browns right now are on a fire zone, Dude, could you imagine though? Like, because the Browns are literally giving off like a lot of pieces right now. They're giving off a lot of pieces because of this mess, because this is clearly not working. So to me, it feels like Myles Garrett wants to go like he has to play for a contending team. And right now the Browns don't look like that. So to basically take Myles Garrett off their hands, saving them $25 million in cap, and they have to eat up the $45 million in the dead cap money, like, and then Joe Ortiz could then rework this deal however he may be able to do that, is one that I think would be such a big win for the Chargers, because then we get at least a good 3-5 years of Myles Garrett there. We really would. And we're already building up Tully right where we need him to. And here's the other thing. If this is Khalil Mack's official last year and we decide to move off him this year, this draft is defensive. We could go and get another pass rush in at least the mid to late rounds just to continuously add up depth. And we've already got Bud Dupree for another year. So there is not a whole lot of concern with that, because we, at least with the depth, it's crazy. So Mack is still a beast. He might be back next year, but Garrett, Mack, and Tully for the rest of the absolutely. And so this is the other thing too, is with Joey Bosa, because I'm kind of right now on the stretches that like Bosa is just getting hurt so damn much that it's almost like his value is only going to be put at as much as it possibly can. That's why I think if you honestly put up a trade to trading Joe, because trading Joey would save up a bunch. It really would. And they are a vibe though, but the problem I'm having is like Joey's getting hurt a lot. And we just got rid of 2 players that were getting hurt a bunch. Like I said, I mean, I'm open to potentially bringing back Mike Williams, but I'm not all for it. I'm not all sold for it, because I know he's a cheap option right now, but we've been dealing with the injuries for years. That's the thing. Jorge Rodriguez, bolt up, man. Bolt up, Juan. Appreciate you. Welcome on by, man. What's up? First time here. Bolt up. I see you in the AFC table, killing it, bro. You're going to Monday Night Football at the Birds. I really wish, man. I really, really wish. Really wish I can. But I'm definitely going to be saving up to really end up getting at least one of these games. One of these. You can't trade Bosa. Their pass rush is hurting. They need Bosa back. We gave Joey enough chances. I'm down for Myles trade. Bosa's trade value is at an all-time low. It's smarter to let him get healthy, then utilize him when he gets back. Cool background. That's the background of all backgrounds. X-receiver needed, though, unless Chark can get his ass on that field. And that's the thing, though, is because if DJ Chark is back, so these are not bad, guys. So this is what that's what their thought was Greg Newsome, Mike Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, Harrison Bryant, and Myles Garrett. That's not bad, guys. I'm actually kind of impressed, and I'm pretty surprised. But no, I mean, X receiver right now with the way that things have been looking is an absolute must. Not gonna lie to you, especially with the way that these receivers have been playing. Now, again, so that's the other thing, though, Jorge, is when it comes to the corner spot, I mean, dude, you got to ask yourself this. Because this is what's fun about the trade deadline, is because you're thinking about, you already have 1-year rentals right now. They're already signed to 1-year contracts, like Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, a couple of all these other guys. they're already signed to 1-year contracts. And there are guys that are signed for a short term, like a 2 to 3 year. And then the long terms, of course, 5+. You're thinking about this, how you are going to really think about the future. Pablo Hernandez, bolt up. Sup, man? Enjoy your roundtable stuff, brother. Going to be out at Glendale, Arizona. Bolt fam. Let's go. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Dude, Monday Night Football game on prime time is always a fun time to go. So that's the thing, though, Jorge, is what they were talking about was they were talking about Greg Newsome. Because as of right now, Newsome don't have a contract. If you think about it, Greg Newsome does not have a contract. So you're better to at least get the value that he's up at because he's eventually going to want a contract. And why not give him at least a 2-3 year, right? Because the question of it is, what do we do now with Asante Samuel? What do we do with this? So I don't think they make any splashy trades. Maybe Mike or some unknown corner or D lineman. I didn't know the governor of California played corner. Jokes aside, Greg would be not absolutely, because the thing is that Greg Newsome, what I've just told everybody here earlier on is he reminds me of how when we signed Christian Fulton, right? So think about it. Christian Fulton, he was needing a change of scenery out of Tennessee because once the defense kind of changed up, like Azeez Al-Shaqiri ended up leaving. We got Tier Tart and all the rest of them. Like Greg Newsome, dude, like I see this as Christian Fulton because Fulton only had just about as similar numbers as Greg Newsome has right now. And that was from last year. So you bring him in just like you did with Fulton. He's already got an interception and he's already looking like a defending physical corner. And that's the same thing with what Greg Newsome would bring to the table. You bring him into Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter is going to harden this kid where he is a very productive physical corner. Guy would be great. I think it depends on Zalt, though, because maybe they get better capital if they let him walk during free agency comp pick. Yeah, I think you're right. Because it honestly, because I think it would be like a compensatory pick. So you get added compensation from that. So that's the thing. I appreciate everyone being up on here. We've already gotten 68 total views. We got 10 likes right now, guys. Watch them feet. Hit it up. Hit the likes. Share it out to every Charger fan that we got. We got 9 people right now in the views, in the chats. The highest we've had at least like 13. Let's get them in here because we got to talk about it. I'm going to have more videos also posted out as well, guys. So be in tune for that. That's why I like the Mike trade so much too, because they can give up a 6, then let him walk next free agency and get a comp pick for him. Yeah, no, that's why I was not sure how we were going to honestly do the DeAndre Hopkins trade, because the problem with it is I looked at that contract and everything. That's the one thing that's going to be hard to finagle. The way Tennessee put together that contract. The way they put that whole contract together, and he's 32 right now. That's the one thing that I'm just like, damn. Like, I wish we honestly could end up getting him, but it's not going to happen. That contract is not one I would even take. And again, with the value that we would trade, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, and he's cheap. Yeah, no, Mike Williams is cheap. That's what I'm saying. It was only like 10 million, 8.3 guaranteed. And so you could finagle that and at least get a 6th-round pick there. That would just be one that we wouldn't even need or use. And he's already familiarized with Justin Herbert and with the style of offense that they play. So let's collab on next post-game reaction. Absolutely. I'm down for it, dude. Just shoot me a text and everything. D-Hop's not going to happen, like, at all. 0 chance. I have a better chance of flying off the roof of my house. Well, don't fly off the roof of your house, dude. Like, but yeah, I don't quite. I don't quite. Yeah, I don't see that really happening. Jake, if you get the opportunity, which game on the schedule would you likely go to, boss? I'd rather take Mike Dubb back. He got a connection with Herb already. Absolutely. He said finagle, dude. I'm gonna start using that word. I love it. Well, that's the thing is because if you use the like it's a business term because when you look at the contracts, look, I, I I'm accounted for this because of the fact that my mother, like, this is what she does for a living in business, is she evaluates contracts. And these are all for businesses that are all in the Las Vegas area. So these are all from like big businesses and even to like a little bit of the small businesses because she makes it to a point where she looks at the entirety of the contract to make sure everything is structurized and looks good. And it's also something that, especially when it comes to the budgets, because you're trying to save your entity enough money to where it is not only cost effective, but the quality of it worked on both ends. So that's where you finagle it, where you finagle the deal. So even what you just saw with Joe Ortiz, I mean, think about it. He restructured the contracts of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Like, that was already a big win for Joe Ortiz. So that's the part that I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. If we can honestly do that, that would be huge for us, especially if it comes to the point where we have, especially when it comes to the point that if that Myles Garrett thing was to happen, and after what I've seen with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack restructuring the contract, I mean, this Joe Ortiz could just cook, man. Like, he really can't. So let's see. So we got the Cardinals. So this is the thing. Our next 5 games, it's going to be an interesting stretch, but I honestly can see us going dude, I could honestly see the next 5 games literally go at least 4-1 in the next 5 games. Grant Cardone, Georgia's thousands for this free game. Jay giving free game. But yeah, so our next 5 games, we got the Cardinals Monday night, Saints, Browns, Titans, and Bengals. Dude, I would love to see that Baltimore game. Well, I have seen them play against Baltimore years ago in 2018 when it was the Christmas special game. That was one that was so much fun to watch. I think honestly, well, the one game I would like to go to that's more on the road would be the Raider game because it's a promise. It's a promise I've kept to my old man. So, guys, I know y'all like to give you guys a little bit more of a backstory. So, my stepdad, my pops, he's been a diehard Raider fan for a long time, and I know we hate the damn Raiders, but him and I have been doing this tradition for a very long time because me being the quote unquote oddball of the family, being a Charger fan, we have been keeping up with the rivalry ever since I've been a fan since I was 7 years old. Okay, and my colors have been bleeding strong. I have never looked back. I've never turned I've never changed jerseys, never done any of it. I've always stayed hard with my team. But the thing with my old man is that back in 2020 when like the shutdown and everything happened, COVID was happening. In April he ended up suffering a stroke. And I wasn't sure how the recovery itself was honestly going to end up panning out, but he's been great going through physical therapy. And he had a stroke at 47 years old, still young. And A lot of that had to come from the development of the heart. Took a very long time for the heart itself to develop after all these years. And oxygen got through, and that's where it caused it. It was a heart issue. But he came back stronger than ever. I've always called it like the one part in Remember the Titans where they would say left side, strong side. I would go the other side, right side, strong side, because it hit the left side of his brain to where it nearly kind of paralyzed a bit of his right side. But he was still able to walk with 2 feet. He got his speech back. But the only problem he's always had was moving his right arm. And I think a lot of that had to deal with was because it was a lot of the mental, and it was trying to move those muscles itself so where he can get more motion in his right arm. And so by that point, he made it quick, like faster than a lot of average people would. So by that point, what I promised him at the time, and it was so cool because when the Chargers were playing the Raiders in Herbert's rookie year, I had him on my live stream in my regular show, and we both did the game together. He was wearing his Howie Long t-shirt that I got him for Christmas a couple years back. I was wearing my Justin Herbert jersey, and we both were just calling the game, watching the game, and just watching an absolute thriller all through it with Herbert after winning that game. And the tradition has gone through since. My promise is that I would love to take my old man, even if I'm able to take my family, to go to a Raider Charger game one of these days, whether it's in SoFi or whether it's in Allegiant. It would be cool to do it at Allegiant because Las Vegas, I have been born and raised in Las Vegas my entire life before I moved to Denver. And I've been to Allegiant once. I was there for a wrestling event, SummerSlam. And so to me, like, it would mean a lot to him because he gets a chance to do the Raider experience. He gets a chance to really see Allegiant Stadium, and we're able to watch the game there and really just enjoy more and more of just the rivalry that we've always had together. And so it would really mean the world for him and I, and even for just our family as a whole. And so that's always been one that I've always have kept my promise on, is one of those days that we would do that. I'm going to read through back here about the comments. Jake, I love Mike Williams, but got to hit the brakes because if Chark gets going this week, then what are we talking about? No, that absolutely, Pablo. That's what I'm saying. Bolts up, bro. Absolutely. That's why I was like, if DJ Chark really does get going, then, at that point, what's the point? What's the point in all that if he starts going? So yeah, I'd see us definitely winning against the Saints. I wouldn't look ahead the schedule. The NFL is a weird sport. Trap games all around. I have faith in my boys, but I hope they don't overlook anybody. No, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So, maybe the Browns are waiting until we play them to send us Myles Garrett. That's true too. That's very true. That could be something that's really interesting. That's cool. Nothing wrong with being a Raiders fan. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Jake, I got family that is a Bronco and Raiders fan too. I still wear my Chargers stuff to every family function. Bolt the fuck up. Absolutely, dude. Jake, I'm going out to Allegiant Stadium for that January 5th or 6th. I will be there, brother. Absolutely, bro. I married into a Raiders family, so it's the Raiders. Exactly. Well, and so like my family, so this is the deal. So I actually got my wife to be a Charger fan because she's originally from Denver, right? She's originally from Colorado. And I moved out here for our own purposes. We wanted to start a family here. It was healthier, and like Vegas. Listen, I love my roots to death, but it's not the same Vegas that I remember growing up as a kid. And it's kind of sad, but again, it's growing differently, and I hope the best for it. But I felt like it was much healthier to really raise my family here. I love the outdoors, love the mountains, but more importantly, I love Charger football. So I was able to convert my wife to being a Charger fan after, being a Bronco fan for years. But what's funny is, and what was so sweet is that her late mother actually did root for the Chargers. So it meant a lot, to at least wear the Charger gear and just thinking of her mom like that. And so it was, I love it every time that like we're together and we're both in Charger gear. It's just always so much fun and it's sweet. And my family, because like majority of them are Raider fans and some of them are Steeler fans. One was at one point a Redskin before they changed to being the football team and then the Commanders. And then he ended up going into the Raiders. And then my mother, who's originally from Long Island, New York, is a Giants fan. So it's like we kind of have a little bit of some interesting fans of teams from there. But my grandmother, of course, was a Bronco fan. So, yeah, I had a bit of AFC West, but thank God we don't really have any of them that are at least Chiefs fans. Otherwise, it would have been a serious problem. But but all jokes aside, no, yeah, think about that. The fact that if we're waiting, like the Browns are waiting to play us, and then they send Myles Garrett, dude, that would be insane. But yeah, so the remainder of the schedule, I mean, think about it. We're at a point where we're coming off the bye, and this is where important 13 weeks comes from. Cardinals, Saints, Browns, Titans, Bengals, which I could see those be winnable games. The only one that I want the payback on is the Tennessee Titans, because if you guys remember last year, that was our WTF game of our season. How the hell did we end up losing to the damn Titans? Like, in that fashion. That's the one game that really pissed me off. So I want us to basically get our payback against the Titans. And that's part of the 3-game home stretch between the Titans, Bengals, and Ravens. Because we already know the Ravens game is going to be the hard bowl. And I wouldn't be surprised of how that game goes on with how Lamar Jackson would end up playing. Oh, absolutely, Pablo. That's the thing, man. I love it. I love it being up out there in the mountains, bro. Then there's the Falcons, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, Broncos, Patriots, Raiders. So this is where the stretch gets fun here. And you know what? Not a lot of people are talking about us. Not a lot of people. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I would rather be the team that's not talked about right now, because that's where a lot of our momentum is really going to be important. So I would take this for sure to where we go in every week and we don't take any of these weeks lightly. Not at all. Because we know the loss to the Steelers, I'm sure we may end up seeing again, or maybe we don't. The Chiefs, we already have them December 8th on the road. And that's the one that we really want to embarrass that damn team, is on the road. Because we played them hard, and that was a close enough game as it was. So we would like to have our proper payback from there. But yeah, any of these games, like the Saints, the Browns, the Titans, we've been very good against the Bengals the last couple times we faced them. But that Buccaneers game, though, is going to be pretty interesting nonetheless. But Sunday Night Football game in Arrowhead is one that I'm circling that many times, because that is one that we really have to embarrass these damn guys, like, all the way around. So hopefully we can make this happen. Okay, let's get into the game itself. All right. So after talking about all these trade deals, so I'm going to get into this because we got to wrap up all this stuff, and I got to definitely eat. So previewing this matchup, this is an opportunity for the Chargers to really take advantage of. We're 3-2 right now, 2-1 against our division opponents. And this is going to be a Monday Night Football game under the lights, 85 degrees. Should be a beautiful time for football, even though we know it's in a dome. But I don't care. The thing the Chargers need to do is the Chargers continuously throw pressure on Kyler Murray, just like we did with Bo Nix. Because if you think about it, our pass rush was giving them such fits. And on top of that, when the ball's in the air, that's where our secondary really then starts to thrive. Because that's where it's anybody's game the second that the ball is in the air. You got to force Kyler Murray to throw the ball and not get as mobile. You got to force him to do that. Now, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is playing, my hope is, and like we went back to, Cam Hart does have experience against Marvin Harrison Jr. in college and was very successful covering him at Notre Dame. I'd say you honestly would put him against him and then leave it to where we have our facilitators out in the secondary. So, yeah. And this is where our corners are really going to have to step up. And they've done an amazing job against the Denver Broncos, and they made some big-time coverages. But Christian Fulton came away with a big-time pick. Elijah Molden came away with that big-time pick. And that is where, like, plays like that are going to be game changers for us. But we cannot take our foot off the gas pedal when we need to push momentum. Open up the pass game. This is an opportunity to where this is not an intimidating defense either. Because the Cardinals in these stretches have not looked that good. The Cardinals are already banged up on their defensive line without Justin Jones and Belial Nichols. So there's not going to be much of pressure coming at Justin Herbert at all. Not much of it. So this is putting pressure on guys like Roy Lopez and Dante Stills. So that's the thing that where the Chargers are going to get a big-time break on. And by the way, Jim Harbaugh on Monday nights in his 4 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, Jim Harbaugh is 6-0. He's 6-0 on Monday Night Football. Jake, I would be shocked if if Marvin Harrison Jr. played. Wasn't he just in concussion? Yeah, he was. He was. Well, think about it. Look at what happened with Malik Neighbors. Like, goes in the concussion protocol. Now, he was out at least a game, but now he's going to be back in it this week. I think so, too. I think this is a J.K. Dobbins game. I think this is exactly a J.K. Dobbins kind of game. Run the football again, build some efficiency, and then really get the pass game involved again as well. But yeah, Jim Harbaugh is 6-0 on Monday Night Football. So he ain't lost his step. And so that's going to be one of the things that the Chargers know they need to take advantage of. And I think this would be huge for them to come away with a win on Monday Night Football against a team like this, where the Cardinals right now, they've just been looking like a hot mess on defense. And Kyler Murray and company, they've been trying to go on games to where they're trying to win shootouts. That's one of the big things. Yeah, Rory, he is cleared. Bolt up, bro. Yeah, so Marvin Harrison is playing. Okay. As a Charger fan, the lack of anxiety for the game is scary. Well, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is that we hope that we learned from the mistake on that one quarter in the fourth quarter from the previous week against the Denver Broncos that we don't do again against the Arizona Cardinals. Because it's a one game step up. Okay, we come off the bye. We took care of business in Denver. Now we go and take care of business in Arizona, because that next one that's going to be at home, we got to take care of business against New Orleans. And look at how bad they looked on Thursday night without Derek Carr. And that defense looks old. The defense looks old. They're clearly going to be up in cap hell. This is actually a pretty prime opportunity for the Chargers to really take advantage of. And while people are not talking about this team, that's the thing. So that's why I'm holding it together here. And I think this team up on Monday Night Football is going to come out. They're going to show up. Harbaugh, with that 6-0 undefeated record, is going to take care of business. And by the way, I'm hoping I don't have any kind of heart attack in this game. Really am hoping. Because I know Jim Harbaugh, that was scary to watch. But you know what? He is going to live and breathe for this team. That's what he's going to do. He is our juice. This is what we wanted. A culture head coach. And we got one. So now is our time to where we really got to get serious throughout this entire stretch. This was one win of the 13. So we still got 12 more weeks to go. And after this one on Monday night, that will be at least 11 left. We could take 4 games in this stretch. As long as we stick to the plan, as long as we end up, if we have to change up, we got to be clever about it. A lot of our scheme plans, because this has worked up to this point. But offensively, we have to be balanced. Okay, love our run game up to this point, but we cannot afford to be conservative at the worst time. We have to get those first downs. We have to open up those pass games when everything is set for us. This is a perfect opportunity to do this, guys. So my final score up on the game, because the Chargers now are favored by 2.5 after what we've seen. Marvin Harrison Jr. is clearly going to be playing, and the Cardinals right now look like a hot mess. Yeah, and last week, we've only had 3 penalties. So keep the penalties low. Play solid man-to-man defenses, because especially when it gets to all the way to the fourth quarter, we have to still stay shut down. We still have to apply the pressure. Open up the pass game as the run game is building efficiency, and it's staying consistent, because we don't want to be an obvious team that's only just going to run the football every single time. You got to mix some passes in. You got to end up doing it. My final score up on the game, I'm going to go with a 27-20 win on the road on Monday Night Football. Jim Harbaugh improves to 7-0. We then improve to 4-2. So let's make it happen, guys. I appreciate all of you guys for being up here, up and on this live stream. 81 views total, 13 likes, still washing up the feet. Subscribe to the channel as well, because we are here to meet our goals, guys. Catch me on the AFC West Roundtable every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, guys. You guys do not want to end up missing out on all the fun that we always have on the AFC West Roundtable, when I really got to show up for every single one of these guys on the table and let them know what's up. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you guys up to date on live streams, videos, and more. Share it out with every Charger fan. Let them know we are here. We are here, guys. We got to let them know, because every single time I keep hearing the same wording. I've never seen a Charger fan before. I don't know if Charger fans exist. We exist. We are here, and we are bringing the storm, guys. Let's make it happen. Extinguish. Bolt up, everybody. Show off your chat. Show off your bolts in the chats, guys. Let's make it happen. Let's steal away this win, and let's put Kyler Murray on his ass on Monday Night Football. Let's go Ball talk!